Hello, and welcome to the 26th episode of ParcelCast. Our subject today is technology and a good foundation, and this will be a parcel carrier shipping story. With us today is Justin Cramer, the co-founder of ProShip, and Josh Fredman, the SVP at Better Trucks. Welcome, Josh and Justin. Josh, could you introduce yourself, please?
Yeah, hey, thanks, Jerri. Great to be here and looking forward to the conversation with you and Justin. So Better Trucks is the last mile parcel delivery service. We are in about 25 metros in about 18 states today and growing quite a bit. We have a completely connected network between each of the metros that we serve, and we offer first mile services, pickup services as well. We got started in the business about 4 years ago here in Chicago, where I'm based, and we've expanded pretty quickly throughout the Midwest, down into the Southeast, Texas, and the New York tri-state area. So that's the quick and dirty about us, and looking forward to this conversation.
Thank you. Justin, will you give us an introduction?
Yes, many of our listeners probably already know who I am, but I'm the co-founder of ProShip. I've been in the logistics world for 23 years. I've helped implement over 300 systems across four continents, with customers shipping more than 3 million parcels a day at max, and some customers shipping more than 110 million shipments a year.
Awesome. As the alliance manager at ProShip, I've gotten to know the Better Trucks team very well, and we've had discussions about the market that we are working in and living in. And I have some data. According to the report linker this month, released in April, the CEP, which is known as the Courier, Express, and Parcel Report, e-commerce sales were $870 billion in the U.S. in 2021, which was a 14.2 increase over 2020 and a 50.5% increase over 2019. E-commerce represented 13.2% of all retail sales in 2021 in the U.S. That's some interesting information, but I wanted to find out, what does our current CEP environment look like to both of you? And do you see any concerns for 2023 and onward? Josh, we'll start with you.
So, Jerri, I think on top of the CEP information that you just shared, I think some of the other interesting information has come out of some of the larger parcel carriers and national parcel carriers more recently in terms of their earnings reports that have been released. And I think as a whole, the industry is seeing lower volumes, and that's not a surprise. For us at Better Trucks, we think that an economy that may not be doing as well is advantageous and opportunistic for our company, because all of the retailers and fulfillment centers and shipping clients are going to be looking for cheaper, faster alternatives, and that's right in our wheelhouse. And so, while this information is very valuable and helps us plot our strategy, we look at it as an opportunity right now.
I have to agree with that, Josh, because I agree. We saw some of the major carriers talk about decreases in their overall volume. We have also seen a decrease in overall retail. However, we've seen a 1.2% increase in the amount of e-commerce that is going through retail. So as we do see some market forces pushing things down, we are still seeing many market forces that say small parcel shipping will continue to have some of the upward pressure that we've seen, if not at the level that we saw during 2000 and 2001.
Josh, what are some of the differentiators that Better Trucks offers? Because in an economy like this, from the height of the pandemic to now, customers are looking to diversify their carrier platforms. What differentiates you over everyone else?
Yeah, great question, Jerri. So, there are a lot of parcel providers out there. We think we're different for several reasons. The first is we have, as I mentioned earlier, a completely connected network between each of the metros that we serve. And so whether we're picking up a package in Pennsylvania destined for Minneapolis, or picking up a package in Chicago destined for Florida, we have trucks that are running between each of those lanes every night. And in that sense, we act a lot more like a national carrier to our shipping clients. We also provide services outside of your typical parcel delivery. And so we do package sortation work under each of our roofs. So even if we're not the last mile carrier doing the work, we can still help a customer with zone skipping and sorting packages to the last mile carrier that is doing the delivery. So in that sense, we might be doing the pickup, and this way the client is not relying on 10 different trucks from 10 different carriers showing up. We're doing all the pickups. We're getting the packages to the last mile carrier, whether they be a national or another regional provider. And then the other piece that I think is really important is we're helping clients move freight on these movements that we do. And so whether it's a couple pallets here and there, whether it's a larger movement, our clients can ship parcel and other items with us. It might be in the form of store replenishment. It might be in the form of moving other products that they need to get to either a storefront or to another customer or another partner of theirs. All that gets loaded up on our truck and delivered to the end customer wherever the product needs to go. And so those three items are very helpful, I think, to our clients. And then I want to just mention, technology. Transparency and visibility is paramount in everything that we do across our business. And so whether that's tracking and tracing, very, very similar, if not better than some of the national carriers, to picture on delivery, sending that picture, delivering it back to the client, to the end customer, sharing the geo coordinates of where that drop took place. Again, it's all about being transparent and giving folks as much information as possible. And so we do a lot of texting to clients to say, hey, your package is up next for delivery, should be there in 7 minutes, or whatever the timing looks like. And in that sense, it's a very similar service offering to what a end customer would see when they order their food from DoorDash or Uber Eats or something like that. And there's no reason that that same type of transparency can't come through for a package. And that's what we've built, and that's what we deliver on.
I know a couple of really interesting things about Better Trucks. You do something special with your drivers. You really train your drivers, and it doesn't hurt that you charge less than national carriers, correct?
Yeah, that's right. So driver training is very important. We have our own delivery drivers that are W-2 based. We have some partner carriers that are very similar to like a FedEx Ground type model, and then we also utilize independent contractors. And regardless of who's doing the delivery, they're trained the exact same way, and they use our technology. And so from a consistency standpoint, it doesn't matter who's doing the delivery. They all have the same background and the same training.
So you have the technology, the connected network, the extended network, the dynamic pricing, but we'll talk more about that later. But it's very important for our customers not only to diversify, but to rationalize their carriers. And we've talked about this before, but Justin, can you go into more detail about rationalization?
Well, rationalization is a word that we're enjoying because it kind of is a counteracting of the panicked or less rational things that we did during the pandemic, where capacity became so important. As you alluded to earlier, there was such a large increase in volume as we saw the end of 2020 throughout 2021 and throughout a large portion of 2022 before we started to see things normalize. But there are other pressures that are actually occurring within the small parcel industry. We are aware of Teamsters contracts that need to get redone, where there's already saber rattling about strikes. The FedEx Pilots Union has already voted to allow themselves to vote on a strike. That's very procedural and all that, but what it means is that there continues to be volatility, but not so much from just a strict capacity standpoint. And given the amount of volume we are now shipping small parcel compared to pandemic, capacity is still a minor concern. But when major carriers could be removed for a couple of days or weeks from your ability to execute, well, you still need to be concerned that you're going to be able to get your packages to your end customer. You need to be prepared. And you also need to look at everybody that you added or maybe didn't add during the pandemic itself. And you need to ensure that the carriers that you are using meet particular goals for you. They can stretch with some of their capacity in the event of a disruption of another carrier. They can hit the areas that you're looking to deliver to in a timely fashion so that your customers continue to have that service level, that SLA that they're used to, or that you may have guaranteed for as part of a price club or something like that that they might have joined for loyalty reasons. So it's not just a let's go from the 5 carriers we had pre-pandemic to the 15 carriers we had during the pandemic up to 20 carriers. No, let's look at going potentially to 12 carriers or maybe even 10 carriers, but the right 10 or 12 carriers to ensure that you've got that flexibility. So if any capacity constraints hit any one carrier, regardless of the reason, you can flex with it, but also so that you're actually using high quality partners that it doesn't matter whose label is on that box. Your customers are going to get that quality delivery in the end, and you're not going to be double paying. Of course, we're going to simplify the number of dock doors that are needed, all these other things that come in the process of not just expanding, but actually taking a rational approach to the number of carriers that you're servicing.
Yeah, I mean, just to add on to that, Justin, I think, one of the things that, our customers ask us is, what can you do for us? And, is there more to it than just taking a package from our dock and putting it, at a customer's doorstep the next day or 2 days later? And so that's why some of the service offerings that I discussed earlier are, so important and things that we're seeing a lot of interest in, from new customers and existing customers. One other differentiating point that I wanted to make is we recently launched a new service called BTX. We're calling it Better Trucks Extended Network. And what that allows our clients to do is utilize our existing network throughout our existing trucks and the footprint that we have. And that would be for speed and for cost. But then the last mile delivery is actually conducted by the Postal Service. And so, that will help get packages to areas that we cannot deliver to, more rural locations, areas that are not part of our current coverage area, but it will also help, lower cost, increase transit time, and provide an option should, some of the national carriers have some of these labor woes that you mentioned. And so from a strike mitigation standpoint, we think that that's a valuable opportunity for our clients.
Josh, that's a great point. One of the nice things about using postal last mile rather than trying to put everything directly in a postal is the post office has a very complicated means of moving letters and packages from one side of the country to another. By leveraging a standard over-the-road carrier like yourselves, you're able to bypass a lot of that and make it easier on the post office by injecting into the destination DDU or BBC and making it easier just to get it down to that last mail person to actually deliver it to the door, so everybody's happier and everything runs smoother in an event like this.
Yeah, and to your point, that zone skip, if you will, is becoming more and more valuable.
So at the height of the pandemic in 2021, we saw investments in last mile and new carrier startups. Well, now many of those companies have debt to their investors. I would like to find out from both of you. Do you think it's very important to be debt-free in this small parcel market?
Sure, maybe I'll start there, Jerri. So, I can't speak to, how much debt a company should have on their books at any one time. I can tell you that Better Trucks has no debt currently, and that's the way we plan to keep it. That enables us to, go out and secure the assets that we need more easily to build and grow the business in a much more succinct and fast manner. And so, there are some carriers out there that seem to have quite a bit of debt. I don't know the impact that it has on their business, but I have to imagine, given the interest rate environment that we're in right now, it has to be more difficult. And so, I think that we think we're in a really good place with where we are financially and what that will enable us to do going forward.
We feel that being debt free gives us more flexibility and allows us not to have to move towards specific bad decisions in the event of an opportunity. But that being said, just like there's good fats and bad fats, good carbs, bad carbs, whatever, there is good debt and there is bad debt.
Right.
But regardless, if you have debt at some point in time, that's going to restrict the amount of either additional debt that you can bring on, the amount of cost cuttings that you can do, and other things. It's not an indication that that company is going back to my food analogy, they're not going to have a heart attack anytime soon, but it's not always the best thing. And a debt-free company, usually has significantly more options to allow themselves to pivot in the most adverse of situations.
We mentioned earlier dynamic pricing, and I would like for you both to explain to us your definition of what it is, why it's important, and do you use it? Josh, we'll start with you.
Yeah, so I didn't talk a little bit about my background prior to joining Better Trucks a couple years ago, but I spent over a decade at United Airlines in the commercial or their network planning, alliances, joint venture development, and dynamic pricing in the airline industry is something that's common knowledge and has been going on for years, and that's something that we're trying to bring into the Better Trucks realm. So in the industry, we've heard terms like a different price by day a week. That makes sense in some regard. Our definition of dynamic pricing is a little bit different. So if you're looking at getting a package from point A to point B, we're looking at what is the capacity, what is the load factor on each given segment within that journey of the package to determine whether or not the rate that we have is sufficient for that day. And a lot of times what we're trying to do is better match supply and demand. And so we are doing dynamic pricing with a few clients today. We'd like to expand that to others. But really what that has enabled them, our clients, is to generate cost savings. And so, secondarily to that is, how can we better densify our routes and share those cost savings, I should say, with our clients. So if we know that we're going to be stopping, I'll make this up at Justin's house on tomorrow as an example to drop off a package. When there's an inbound inquiry for another package that's going to be delivered at Justin's neighbor's house tomorrow, we can generate, better density and share those cost savings, with the client who has brought in or generated that additional label. And so really it's about taking each aspect and each element to a price for a package and trying to figure out how we can, leverage better costs and generate savings for clients. There may be a question about what that means on the Tuesday after Thanksgiving. We've committed to clients that they will not see an increase in any overall pricing. However, on peak days, such as right after Thanksgiving, the prices might be slightly higher than they might be, on a Wednesday 2 months prior to Thanksgiving. It really has to do with capacity and meeting supply and demand. And really what this is all about is trying to figure out a way to maximize our assets and our utilization and try to figure out just how to perform better and how to deliver cost savings to clients.
How is this done? Is this done digitally?
Yeah, so it's all done through our API and different inputs that come into the API, generating dynamic prices, very similar to a bid price exchange. And so, if a package is going from, Chicago to Dallas or from Pennsylvania to New York, given capacity constraints and given what the usage looks like for the delivery date that the package is to be delivered on, we can generate a price that, may conform to something that you see every day or maybe slightly lower and in some cases slightly higher.
So as national demand changes, your system can flex with it.
That's correct. Yep. And it's all done through the API.
If I could add to it as well, what we're looking at, what we're hearing, and that it seems like Better Trucks is in the lead of, is we know that the pricing models of old are not the best. They were built in a different time because unfortunately they're still based off of a rather fixed network. They change slowly. As we've seen, as we continue to see the amount of e-commerce grow, as we continue to see the number of items that are going to be shipped, as we continue to see the need for more flexibility in the system, it is encouraging to see the carriers out there are starting to look at ways other than the legacy zones based on zip to zip and fixed pricing that gets negotiated 3 years in advance. And the prices just go up because fees seem to keep creeping into them. That's a model that doesn't seem to be sustainable long term. Customers are pushing back a lot. Customers have fee fatigue or surcharge fatigue, if you will, and are really looking for something that is where they're actually getting something for a change in price. right? So if this change in price is opening up a new leg and allowing for more deliveries to another area, that makes sense. They're getting something for that. But as we just continue to see fee on top of fee on top of fee, that's really going to cause problems. So I'm excited to hear about the dynamic pricing we're talking about here. I have heard other carriers that are looking for other ways to reduce the fee fatigue, the accessorial fatigue that we're seeing. And I think that what this means is what you'd expect when you go from an oligarchy to a lot of carriers actually competing. We are starting to see innovation in the market. We are starting to see a reason to really understand which carriers are out there and be prepared and have a solution that allows you to bring them on board quickly and continue to take advantage of these new and innovative approaches that can save money and or increase delivery speeds, things of that nature. I'm excited to see where this is going to go.
Justin, I would just add, in our view, it doesn't matter if, a national carrier gets the delivery to, one house, on a given day, and then the next day a package going to that same house is, a package that, we deliver for whatever the reason is. And it could be a price shop, it could be some other influence, based on algorithmic influence. But at the end of the day, going back to your point about carrier rationalization, it's how do you think about partnering with carriers that will allow you to solve your problems and do that, maybe a little differently by thinking outside the box. And that's really kind of where we think we specialize.
Speaking of thinking outside of the box, sustainability is very important to Better Trucks, right? And from what I understand, Better Trucks is working on a B Corp certification, and I think that's pretty impressive. And I wanted to find out, how did you get started down that path? Why is that important to you?
Yeah, I mean, the sustainability and anything that we can do to help lower our carbon footprint is very important to everyone at Better Trucks, and especially the senior leadership team. The B Corp certification I'll discuss in a sec, but one of the other things I wanted to mention is, we are currently testing reusable Gaylords that, we think we can use for, months and months, if not years on end, that don't break down. And that's just maybe that's a little tactical, but, that just speaks to how we think about the business and how we think about ways to reduce our carbon footprint and also to do good for the environment. So the B Corp certification is something that we started working on last year. It relies on using green technology, but it also relies on reporting and monitoring of those emissions. And so it's something that is not easy to do, especially in our industry. It's a work in progress, and it's something that we think will be a differentiator. And in conversations with clients and prospects, it's something that they're very interested in. And so we're going all at it. We have orders on the books for electric vehicles, not only cargo vans, but semis as well, hoping to have those by the end of the year. You're seeing some of the other national carriers. Amazon is getting a lot of electric vehicles, and we think that there's a huge opportunity to be good for the environment, but also at the end of the day help lower our costs and pass those savings on to our clients as well.
I have to say, as somebody who's been in the industry for a long time, I was really happy for simple things like United States Post Office being able to take electronic manifests rather than having to print out a 300-page manifest every day at every warehouse. And we have seen a lot of moves in the past from various carriers that, to be harsh about it, really could be seen as greenwashing. To our listeners who are unaware of what B Corp certification is it's literally an external third party that goes through, audits what's being done, and actually certifies that, yes, this will have a measurable impact. And I think that's important to a lot of the millennial consumers out there, and has become, environmental concerns have become even more important to Gen Z as they start to become one of the primary spenders in the market. Being able to offer those services to your end customers, being able to say, if you buy from my e-tail store, it's going to be delivered by a B Corp certified, or at least an organization that's trying to become B Corp certified. Because we discussed earlier, you guys are the first. We don't even know if it's possible, but it is definitely something where you've gone beyond anybody else at this point in time, to where if it does become possible, well, now it's something somebody can actually truly rely upon, not just that we've said we've rolled out a couple of electric vehicles in a very large market and a couple of bicycles in LA and New York, but the rest of the country is still being delivered by 40-year-old diesel trucks, right? So it is something that the market is looking for. It is something that with some of the marketing that is out there, it's difficult to tell what's actually making the impact that these consumers may care about versus using something like the B Corp cert to validate that you're actually making an impact and that that's where they may want to spend their money if that's something that's important to them.
Very interesting. Well, in this session, we did a little market overview. We discussed funding and debt, dynamic pricing, and sustainability. And now I'd like to offer both of you a chance to give us your final thoughts. Justin, we'll go with you first.
Sure. I'm going to, of course, start with a mantra that we've been talking about all of Q1 here, and that is that carrier rationalization. ProShip continues to add carrier after carrier because the market needs it, right? We continue to get asked for more alternatives, more options. And the nice thing is there are so many carriers out there, each one which is unique and offering different options to not only you as a retailer, manufacturer, 3PL, whatever, but also to your end customers, okay? So as you look at it, as we talk to these carriers, as we put out these ParcelCasts, think about what's important to your customer base, and then think about as well what's important to ensure that you can continue to deliver your customer base. Rationalize the process of understanding the number of carriers you have or the number of carriers you actually need to meet your customer base and their needs. So that's what I would leave you with, is really just thinking truly and deeper about carrier rationalization.
Yeah, I'll have some final thoughts. First of all, Jerri, Justin, thanks so much for having us. Really enjoyed this conversation and our partnership as well. I think the rationalization piece is really key, Justin. I think the differentiation piece and really understanding how different carriers provide different services that you could benefit from. And so, whether it's the next day or 2-day service offering and the coverage area that carriers offer, especially carriers like Better Trucks, where we think we have a larger coverage area than the national providers. But it's really about how can you find cost savings, and whether that's through zone skipping, which is something that I think is undervalued today and I think is a big opportunity, or whether it's figuring out how to make the package journey more transparent to the end customer. Providing those details and doing that succinctly, I think will help the customer base. And I think the customer base is looking and looking for that information and looking for that transparency. And so I would leave you with that. And I think that what we talked about today is just the tip of the iceberg. But there's a lot of other kind of technical enhancements that Better Trucks is working on, others are working on to deliver that package more reliably, faster, and with greater transparency. So thanks again for having us, and we appreciate being here.
Thanks for being here, Josh. And thank you for the great advice. If you'd like to learn more, please visit us at ProShipInc.com or BetterTrucks.com. Thank you so much for joining us today. If you have any questions, just a reminder that you can reach ProShip at sales@ProShipInc.com or call 800-353-7774. We hope you join us for our next ProShip ParcelCast. Thanks for tuning in.